the patterns of abuse that have been going on for a long, long time in my family. Abuse carries on because nobody's talking about it. So it felt like it just wasn't really a choice. It felt like a necessity. I saw the problem, and that's part of what I do in the work that I do, which is here's a problem and what's the solution? How can I creatively solve this? The problem is that nobody was talking about it.
But up until now, you're in your 5th decade. You've experienced a lot. You're now a mother of 2. You've made an incredible, courageous film about your family and the trauma. You won a lot of awards in the workplace, external awards. If you look at it, what do you think or feel life has designed you for?
Big question.
She is an award-winning creative powerhouse behind iconic campaigns and films for top global brands. She is brilliant in the marketing world. Tracey Arcabasso Smith. Hi, I'm Topaz Adidas. I'm the founder of the Emmy Award-winning series, The And. The And has been an incredible journey for the last 12 years. We've brought in over 1,250 pairs to have incredible conversations, and I've learned a lot. Through this work, I've had the privilege of witnessing the bold, the beautiful, and the heart-wrenching, the conversations that reveal us. I've watched, I've listened, I've learned, and now I'm ready to share. David S. Viscott has a great quote that always inspires me. The purpose of life is to find your gift. The work of life is to develop your gift. And the meaning of life is to give it away. And what I've seen from my 48 years on this planet, through incredible experiences, is that life shapes us. Things happen to us, and we interpret those things, and that shapes us into offerings we can offer others. So the expedition that I'm embarking upon, that I'm inviting you to join, is a journey of conversations. I'm going to speak to people that I find incredible. I'm going to be asking them questions that reveal their life's journey. What are the hidden gifts and challenges and offerings that they have? And on this journey, we will uncover the message the universe has written into your life for yourself and for others. Are you listening to what your life is telling you? I don't know where we'll go. I'm just going to be very transparent about it. And that's why I welcome you to this journey that we're calling Getting Under the Skin, or Guts for short. Thank you, and let's see where we go. Hey, beautiful people. Welcome back to another episode of Getting Under the Skin. This is episode 5 right here. Today, we have a very special guest, good, wonderful, very close sister of mine named Tracey Arcabasso Smith. Along the way, Tracey has led innovative, creative, and design solutions and artistically driven work for clients like American Express, Verizon, Netflix, U.S. Army, MasterCard, Etsy, Nikon, Starbucks, Levi's, Nestle, and many more. The list goes on. And why am I bringing her on? 2 reasons. Let's start first with the kind of external reason, the book cover. She is brilliant in the marketing world. She has worked with the biggest brands. She has won every kind of award you can imagine, from the Webbies to the Addies to Cannes Lions. She's worked on commercials and films and books and even interactive experiences. She even did one with Taylor Swift and won a Webby, Emmy, something. When she's a good friend, I don't really pay attention to the things she does at work. I pay attention to who she is and the life journey that she's on, right? But in the professional world, she's a badass. But that's not why I brought her on here, per se. I brought her on because she's an incredible soul. She's an incredible human who has seen a lot, has been through a lot. You know, we've collaborated in many ways. She designed the logo for the Skin Deep, for instance. She's always been super helpful. And I filmed for her documentary that she's been working on for 10 years called Relative, which is really a exploration of her own experience with sexual abuse in her own family and that of her family, and kind of the generational abuse that happens. It's a really incredible personal story, courageous film that she made. And I was honored to be able to film it. You know, I'm honored to be able to have friends who can step in and we can have a different kind of conversation. We talk about her film. We talk about her work. We talk about children. We talk about near-death experiences. We talk about supporting people through death. And she has the power to somehow be present and help them in that transition. And that's a very special person. One thing to note, if you are around children, then maybe this is not the best episode to share for them to hear, because there are, you know, some themes that are maybe not age appropriate for young people. as you can imagine with her film Relative, which is about sexual abuse and sexual trauma. So without further ado, I welcome you this really expansive, beautiful, deep conversation with Tracey Arcabasso Smith. Wow. Started raining here right now.
Well, rain is a blessing.
Yeah. Are you hearing the rain or no?
I am. It's intense.
All right, T. So here's the intention of, ooh, look at that sparkle and the light. Look at that. It's perfect. That's good. It's amazing. So let me start with this question. Can you give me a list of the names or titles that you've been called in your life?
Names and titles, like personal or work or both?
Everything. Like, what are the names that you're being called in your life?
Well, okay. So at birth, coming from an Italian family, there's this unspoken rule that you're supposed to name your children after a saint. So I was named Teresa after Saint Teresa the Little Flower, but they called me Tracey. So that right away there was a little bit of an interesting layer there. And they never registered me as Teresa in school. So I went to take my SATs and the school was like, wait, who's Tracey? What's Teresa? So it's been complicated from birth. A nickname that many friends call me, well, I think Trey is the most common nickname. Trey, Tracey. And Smitty, actually, Smith, Smitty, Trey, T is the one. And then in terms of titles are funny, actually. I think they're I don't know. Sometimes I feel like they are, you can't really put a title on things, but throughout my career in general, I've been called an art director or a designer or a creative director, executive creative director. Now I'm head of design, and I change my title all the time, actually, because, it's so fluid and business is changing. So I don't like to be defined as one thing. And I think, and then even the word design has different meanings to different people. So I introduce myself now as head of design, with, a focus on brand, product, and content. So I sort of sit across and have multidiscipline teams. But yeah, I think titles get a bit complicated. So I try not to sort of just say I am this and leave it at that. I try to give more context because, like I said, I think people find everybody has a different meaning of different words, even in different industries. So I like more color than just a title.
Do you ever give yourself a name of what you are in terms of what you're offering in the world? Like, do you have
artist, filmmaker, mom?
Yeah. I heard Tim Ferriss on the thing, and he's like, I call myself the chief assumption officer, chief assumption tester or something. Like, he tests assumptions. Like, I call myself like a story breaker. Now it's changing. But do you have something that when you think of yourself, that you kind of...
There's not like a go-to answer, but what I often say is at the core of it, story is the constant. Because for me, whether I'm working with product design, experience design, a film, or even just an ad campaign, it always comes down to the story that we're using to communicate whatever we're communicating. So storyteller maybe is what I could land on if I did land on anything. Artist, I always feel weird saying artist because, what is an artist? And can I fill the shoes of the word? I don't know, it feels a little uncomfortable to say artist.
In the circles you're in the spaces you're in, where do you feel that you offer the most value and the unique value?
I try I feel I contribute seeing. I try to do my best, whether it's with my family or with coworkers, to allow people the space to be them and to be able to see them. And I hope that see themselves, feel themselves, be seen, maybe I should say, but or at least I hope to be doing that.
Are you good at it?
I think so. I think we're sort of sometimes living in a way that isn't conscious of the full moment. So I try to bring that presence, and I think I feel it back from people. I think there's some appreciation of this unspoken awareness of the value of the moment that we're in. I try to do that, at least.
You feel that your unique contribution is allowing people to see themselves and be themselves in a way that, by utilizing the fact that we're in this moment and we're being in this moment and we should be present?
I hope to, and I think that I do that. I try to bring an energy of acceptance, so people feel comfortable being who they are. And that's, I'm sure I'm not great at it. I try my best. I don't know how successful I am, because I think it's harder to do with family and my children, because I think I have these expectations and I don't want to have them, but it's real. So I try to not put that on them, and but yeah, that's what I'm striving to do, at least.
Like, when was the moment? Because you're quite successful in your field, right? You're traveling, you're speaking, you have a leadership position at Deloitte where you're working for the last, 5 years. Before that, I mean, you've always been quite successful in terms of external metrics, like, quality work, quality job, quality awards. What do you think is been your key to your success in relation to that, into all the awards and all the opportunities? And
well, I think there's a couple keys.
Yeah.
I think there's genuine attention to craft. So, how much time and dedication do you put towards a craft, to learning the craft? I think a gift that, I don't know if it's a gift, but I am a curious person. I find that curiosity drives me, so I do think that curiosity is what drives the passion to sort of be better as much as I can. But then I do think part of success for me is being as truthful as I can be to myself. And I do believe that if you're true to yourself and what you love doing, and if you're in an alignment with that truth, then the doors sort of open and the barriers come down a bit, the challenges. So
let me ask you about that, because that's a thing that I'm really curious about, because I know you to be a very sensitive, like, not emotionally sensitive, but more like sensitive to other people's feelings and energies, I should say. And I know that you and your partner, and you have a very well steeped practice of ritual or, spiritual connection to earth and to each other and to time. You have the women's group that you have like twice a year, or what, and like, I know you to be someone who's very connected to being present and sensing the energies, and right. How do you balance that? And how do you balance that with your work, where you spend a lot of time? Because maybe sometimes you have, I imagine, not all your clients are like things that may align with your spiritual, sensitivities. How do you balance that, right?
Because it's about people. I mean, if I'm understanding your question, which has been a challenge of mine, which is like, if it's all about sort of my connection to nature and consciousness, and how do I live that life, and spirituality and practice and that work, how do I live that life and also run into the city and be surrounded by concrete and sell X for X client, right?
Yeah.
But it comes up a lot, but it comes back to the people and what I find that the value that I offer the people in whatever we're working on and whatever we're doing. I believe that we need conscious leaders in business to keep the world kind of moving in a positive direction. So, if I just check out and go bring my family upstate and live off the grid a bit, I don't feel like I'll be doing that. But it's a genuine challenge of mine because I do feel depleted by some of the struggle and the frenetic sort of nature of the city and business and what it takes to be successful.
Right. That's what I'm always kind of curious, because we've known each other, like 11 years now, maybe 12?
Yeah.
13? I don't know. And there've been a few times where I know that you have this kind of where your personal interests are and your kind of internal interests and motivations are versus with that of the external world. And I've always been curious about that, as how you balance the two.
I mean, I could get on, this could lead me to another conversation, but up until not even a year ago, actually almost a year, for the last 10 years, I've been working on a film that was everything. So I was sort of the money I was making was funding that. That was where the energy was going. So in the last few months, this is what I'm looking at, is like, can I stay in and take where I am today, sort of in the corporate world as a business leader in the creative industry, and can I make change? Can I do something positive with that? And it's early stages because I'd love to make a big impact. So part of that is I'm focusing on a women's health initiative and seeing where that's going. And there's a lot of interesting possibilities there because, I work for Deloitte, and Deloitte has there's a lot of potential partnerships and connections and possibilities. So now I'm just sort of looking at, and it's new, I'm looking at how can I make change where I am.
Yeah. So I'm going to play back what I'm hearing, and tell me if it's what you're saying. What I'm hearing is that for the last 10 years with your film Relative, which was a beautiful, extremely personal project that we'll talk about, film that's out about your own sexual abuse in the family for yourself and with generations within your family, which is an incredibly courageous film to make. That's where all your energy has been going in terms of like your internal purpose.
Yeah.
I wouldn't, and so you've been offering your skill set to the corporate world and by marketing and creative direction and design, and you've taken that excess energy and put that into this personal project Relative, which is taking 10 years to make. And that's been like the way that you're contributing to the things that are more spiritually aligned with you personally. Is that, and
Yes.
Now that that's done, just in the last few months, now that's opened up a new space for, okay, what's next?
Yes. And there's a lot that comes with that. There's excitement around the possibilities, and there's a huge question mark around, well, if that was everything, I will never, this is how I feel. I mean, and I don't know if it's true, but I will never make or do anything as meaningful and as important as that for my soul and my, like down to a cellular level that has changed me. Now what? Like, what do you even follow that with? So it's, and there's a sadness around that too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know if I'll ever do something as important. So it's a strange space to be in.
Can you tell me why that film was so important to you to make?
It was about facing the truest truth of trauma in my family line. And, I grew up with this beautiful, huge Italian-American family with so much joy and love for many, many years. And uncovering and as I grew and started to not only have my own experiences of sexual abuse with cousins, but also see what was happening with my mother and my grandmother, see and or learn from them, and then address it and sit with it and then shift it and see the way that my family was transforming from the conversations, from the film process itself. That was, like I said, I think we've changed this sort of the history and the line and the patterns of abuse that have been going on for a long, long time in my family. So that work was extremely important, which leaves me with, it's an interesting space to be in after all of that.
Yeah, what comes up for me again is like the film was the medium by which you practiced kind of supporting the healing of people in this generational trauma and abuse that's been going through your line, and you kind of had the courage to face that and use the film as a medium. And much like maybe now your work is still a medium by which you're still working with people to create quality work and bring your talent to it. Where did the courage for you come from to make that film?
The courage, it's so interesting. And maybe this is part of why I am where I am, trying to bring that to other people in sort of the everyday workspace. But it wasn't a choice. It felt like it wasn't a choice. It felt like I have to do this because, it's sort of, there's so many cliches around this space where it's like, break the silence. But like really the whole problem with this epidemic is that it's a silent epidemic. It's a silent, like abuse carries on because nobody's talking about it. So it felt like it just wasn't really a choice. It felt like a necessity. I saw the problem, and that's part of what I do in the work that I do, which is here's a problem and what's the solution? Usually like creatively, how can I creatively solve this? So the problem is that nobody was talking about it. The solution is to keep talking about it. So that, and when you, I guess to answer your question more specifically, when you say, how did I find the courage? I didn't find the courage. I don't believe that we do anything ourselves. I believe that, again, it's community. It's like many different, energies or people came into my life at different times that supported the work that I needed to do on myself to do the work for my family and on the film. So meaning, whether it's body work, movement work, meditation, yoga, talk therapy, like all of these different modalities and ways of moving through to get that courage. That I believe that is how I got there, and just listening, like trusting and listening to my intuition around what I needed. Do I need to think through this? Do I need to talk through this? Do I need to move through this? Do I need to sit with this?
Mm-hmm. What was there a moment you remember where you really felt like you had to step forward and you were scared shitless too?
Oh, many, many, many moments. The amount of times I would find myself crawling into the bathtub to sob and feel like I would never move past this moment. I can't even count. I could picture so many, and for me, water is healing. So that's kind of what actually shifts me out of, it helps me access, but also helps me move it, the barriers, the resistance. But specifically about this film, again, it's about talking. So the breakthrough for me was when I realized that, well, before I say that, the challenges that were coming up, the difficulties that we're talking about, were often that I would have conversations with people about their experiences, and they would ask me to not speak about it or take it out, or, couldn't include it in the final edit and things like that. So there was a lot of sensitivity to that, because I love and respect these people that I'm talking to. So how do I honor them and love them? But what happened was, when I realized, and this would take me down every time, it would happen over and over again, and it would take me down. And I'd be like, how can I make a film when nobody wants to talk about anything? But what I realized is that was the story. Just like, again, embracing the truth of what it is that we are experiencing and dealing with. So the truth was, people couldn't talk about it because it was so hard for them. So then when I realized, well, that's the story. That's what goes into the film. I had a conversation, they couldn't talk about it. Like, let's just say that. Let's show the resistance. And that, let's blur the face of the person who doesn't want to be in it. And it worked out, because that's truth. And and then it also showed the gravity of what we were talking about, and how hard it was for some people to actually see it and look at it and address it.
So if you were to take me to the Tracey when she was just setting off to make the film, because you actually started making the film not about your family, but about an animal shelter, right? Which is not in the film, but that kind of, and then you realize in filming them that you're filming these animals that have been abused, or like you realize about your own abuse, right? And it was like, and that kind of turned the camera on the inside, and then there was a bigger story there. Bigger story, like a more personal story about your own life.
Yeah.
If you take me back right now to that Tracey, what's that, 15 years ago, 12 years ago? What do you think I'd be surprised by what I saw, what I'd see?
Probably not. I don't know that you...
Because I'm awesome, because I'm have no judgment. Is that what? Oh, okay, let me ask a different question. You went back and you met her. What do you think she'd be surprised about you now?
I've come a long way, but I don't feel significantly... I mean, I am significantly different. But yeah, I don't, it's not that shocking, really. I think I've always been empathetic, and I've always been sensitive, and I've always been, a people person. It's, so
You don't think you've changed that much?
No, I do think I've changed a lot, but I don't know how obvious it is on the outside.
Okay. How have you changed a lot? Because not a lot of people get that kind of process, which is not only going to therapy and talking about it, but actually making a piece of work, which externalizes it, putting it up on a screen, and then sharing it with audiences on the world and streaming. Right? It's like you've taken your own process. Like, that is quite intense, and that's quite unique. I mean, not everyone has the ability, time, or skill set to make a film, which is basically about their own confrontation of their own generational trauma. Right? That's a very courageous act and skillful act. And so how has that changed you?
Yeah. Okay. The old Tracey would never have believed that that Tracey could do that. So it made it. So, I don't even love giving presentations necessarily. And yet I'm standing in front of 200 people talking about the most intimate parts of my life. So, but I don't know that changed me. What changed me is, all of the work that I told you that I was doing to allow me to keep moving forward. That's what's changed me. And that made me I'm a more conscious person. I'm, to simplify it, I'm more connected to nature and spirit and bigger things beyond.
Let's double click on that for a sec. You're more connected to spirit, nature, consciousness. Like, what does that actually mean? Like, what is that? How does that feel different than when you're less connected? Like, what does that mean?
Okay. I'll give you an example. I was working with an acupuncturist a couple different ones, but one particular one because actually in about, was it 2015, I was at a intense ad agency working many hours, and I started to have like, symptoms of way too much stress, and my nails were sort of coming off. I had this, I was having a lot of different symptoms, and I actually quit my full-time job. But during that time, I was working with an acupuncturist. I'm just trying to find the energy to keep going. And I was in the middle of making the film, but also dealing with this, looking at my relationship with my mom and how that, and really seeing it for what it was, what I got, what I didn't get, being sad about, feeling the sadness, and the reality of some of that relationship a bit. And one thing she said to me was, well, I even forgot the way she worded it, but essentially, mother, like your mother is not, mother is actually mother Earth, and the changing the idea of what the word mother was, and taking it out of like, this one person did the best they could as my mother, my literal mother, but like, we are all held by Mother Earth, and being more connected to nature through many different, different ways of that, through meditation, through working with the Native American church, or, different modalities to get me more connected to the sort of universal truth of that, shifted my ability to actually even see my relationship with my mom and accept that she was mother, but mother really for me was capital M mother. Mother was all things. Mother was, so that is one moment of transformation for me, where it's bigger than what we think. I think, even the word mother is bigger than my mother,
What comes up for me when I hear that story is, I'm not saying this is your case. What comes up for me is I hear a person who maybe had this desperation with their mom, their actual mom, and kind of feel like the powerlessness of the mom. She's just a human being. This is what happened. There's only so much, and there's an anxiety around like, well, and then when you go, actually there's Mother Earth, which is nature and spirit and the patterns of nature, which has a much deeper intelligence, much more omnipresent and profound intelligence. There's a certain level of comfort that can come with that.
Yes.
Right? And that can relax the nervous system, because you're like, actually, I'm not relying on my mother to nurture me. I'm actually relying on Mother Earth to nurture me. And we know how powerful Mother Earth is. And there's like, oh.
That's what that was. That was me feeling into that and realizing that, and relying on that. When I was struggling, I would, light a fire and sort of use tobacco and say a prayer to Mother Earth, like I was held by a bigger.
Right. By a bigger source, by a bigger force.
Yes.
But that's mother. Where's father in you? Because I've never met your dad. You don't, at least in my engagement with you, it's not that you don't talk about him, but you don't talk about him a lot.
Yeah.
And I wonder, like, what has the father, because part of me feels like relative is an exploration really of the affront to the feminine line.
Yeah, it's very much
the feminine line, and I'm not saying women, I'm saying the feminine line.
Okay.
So, but maybe it's not, but it's an affront to the feminine line from the masculine energy, from the men in the family, but which is different. But I'm saying masculine. So where's the father in your story? What's the place of that?
Well, so my parents got divorced when I was around 11 years old, and I don't feel his presence. Even when they were together, he worked a lot, so he wasn't very present in my life. He's a very sort of reserved, analytical guy. He worked for U.S. Customs. He was a special agent. He was, so I get my inquisitive curiosity from that that mind. Our relationship is fine. It's good. But it's not very deep because he wasn't very integrated in my life for most of my life. And he grew up in a family where he was sort of out on the street by 15, 16, kind of doing whatever he wanted because he was the youngest child and grew up in the Rockaways in New York and was pretty much kind of grew up on his own and found his way and made all the decisions on his own and became successful on his own, all of that. And up until a couple years ago, he hasn't been that interested in being introspective or self-reflective necessarily. And I have been. So I, maybe that is why we weren't that close. But his third marriage, he married this woman who is very into therapy and really getting at the friction that they were having. And so he started therapy. And so he's grown and learned a lot and has changed a lot actually from that.
Can I double click on that? Because I kind of get a form of that question and I'd like to hear what comes up for you. But why is it important, or why does him becoming more introspective of himself affect your relationship with him?
I think he's able to see his responses and possibly shift reactions a bit easier now. Like for example, I haven't been out to visit him. I think I was there once, and he's been in California for quite a few years. We are going next month I'm bringing the family for Thanksgiving. And one of the first things he said when he heard I was coming was, well, you're only coming for 4 nights. And, it feels like that's not enough time. And it's like, and I quickly was just like, that's a long time for my family, for a 2 and 4-year-old, so I'm able to kind of push back and be like, you know what, that's actually, instead of being grateful that we're able to make the time to come, you're actually complaining like off the bat. And it, like, can you just be happy that we're coming? So, and within, minutes after we hung up, he wrote back, he texted me, I'm really, thank you for coming, so he's able to see himself. So I think that work allows, I'm not sure he would have been able to do that a couple years ago before he actually did some of the work on himself.
What I'm hearing, actually, what comes up for me when you say that is that when people do the work on themselves in the sense of introspection and self-awareness, seeing how they react to people, see what triggers them, being aware of how their reactions affect their relationship with others, that opened up wider avenues of connection with other people.
100%.
Right? So it's, no, but that's what comes up. And that's what I'm feeling and speaking to you. And I think it's interesting because, with the work that we do with the and everything, sometimes people are like, well, why even have this conversation? Like, why are we even have it? And, which I think is a totally valid question. And you can see sometimes with people who are more closed that the access to emotionally articulate certain ideas and experiences and sentiments is more restricted. So there's less space to attach onto, to draw a thread to someone else.
And less ability to have deeper connections, like real, authentic, deep connections.
Mm-hmm.
That comes through openness and ability to creating space for those conversations.
You know what I find interesting is that a lot of people talk about vulnerability and they assume the vulnerability is in the person who's sharing. But there's also a great deal of vulnerability who's in the person listening. Because maybe, for instance, if you're going to be vulnerable with me, for instance, and you tell me, actually, Topaz, when you did these things, it was really hurtful. That also is a vulnerable position for me because I have to sit in that and I have to listen to that and take that in if I'm really listening to you versus get defensive. So there's actually there's a vulnerability on both sides when you both go into vulnerability. And we don't often talk about the vulnerability of the listener.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Right? So where do you think the gift that you have of being kind of creating the space for people to be who they are and accepting them, where do you think that comes from?
I don't think I ever realized that I could do that. I think I just...
Until this conversation? No.
Well, I've never spoken it out loud, I don't think, actually. But I am realizing it more and more as I go, that's what's happening. Well, because in the last year, I've been reevaluating my value and trying to see, it's questioning everything and what I'm doing, where I am, what's the point. So yeah, this is a sort of recent realization.
Because one of your mottos that you have is find your gift and give it away, which is very much kind of the thing about this podcast. There's a guy named David S. Viscott who's a psychoanalyst and author, and he said, what did he say? He said, the purpose of life is to find your gift. The work of life is to develop your gift. And the meaning of life is to give it away. Which is very similar. You said, like, find your gift and give it away. I think it's beautiful. So what is your gift and how are you giving it away? Let me change it so it's not like your gift and you feel give you freedom not to be arrogant, because I know you're not and you're very humble. So let me invite you to be arrogant by saying, what do you feel humbly is your gift that you're offering others?
I think my gift is I try to be authentic. If I can. And I think that authenticity and transparency and openness, maybe open is a better word, but that while I'm doing that, I'm also giving that, because I'm giving that to the space that I'm in with whoever I'm with. So I think that and what I think it's doing, and what I saw it do in the film, is it's allowing people the permission to be themselves and to be authentic and open and not fear that, not hide that, you know.
So, like, looking back, is there a moment where you did that the first time? Or did you can remember doing that for a time where it affected you?
No.
No? Not till, okay, interesting.
I think it's just evolved. I'm learning.
What keeps you up at night these days?
Well, the world, and my children, and the world they're walking into, that they're growing up into, and how do we create a more conscious, peaceful place for them to reside in?
What did you learn by being a parent that you never expected to understand, or that you're surprised to understand by becoming a parent?
Well, what comes to mind when you say that is what weighs on me, which is this responsibility. Because I'm an older parent. I mean, it's all relative, but I lived so many years and had a lot of fun for many years. I mean, it's like really nice to be free and go and live and be, and then all of a sudden you have these two little girls that I'm responsible for. So that responsibility is the most shocking part of being a parent, and how everything I do is how affected they are by every single thing that I do in the moment and in the future. Like, everything I do will affect their moment now and their everyday later. And it feels like a big, responsibility. So that's hard. And I'm doing the best I can, but it's a challenge. It's a bigger challenge than I thought.
What do you connect most with your oldest?
Her sensitivity.
Same with your youngest?
Oh, she's just a ball of joy all the time. In fact, when she's outside and it's too cold, she wants to go inside. So she's a different energy, but she's, Rhea is my genes, and I'm driven by nature. And Nova is from Maggie's genes. So
your partner. My
partner, yeah. So they're just generally smiling all the time.
Yeah. But I love the fact that you have a similar donor, the same donor.
Yeah.
But different eggs, both you and your partner Maggie. And I think that's a beautiful, so that the sisters are genetically sisters also.
Mm-hmm.
And yet each of you is in one of them. And there's that wonderful family nuclear, which, I think that's a beautiful, beautiful blessing. And I remember when you guys were, like a lot of families, it's hard to have, it's harder than people talk about, to have children. And it's a total mental mindfuck, emotional mindfuck roller coaster.
Especially right now. Well, I guess.
Why especially now? Tell me.
Well, it's less political and more, I mean, I think it's so much bigger than the elections. It's like what we're moving towards as a conscious collective, and what I always think about as as a professional, what is the definition of success? But what is the definition of success for these kids? What does it mean to be successful? And it's like there's so much around kind of popularity and consumerism and just really things that are very disconnected from nature.
But are you asking what's successful for them or successful for you in parenting them?
No, for them. Like, what is it at the end of the day when they go to bed? What has made them happy, and what drives happiness for them? And is it how many friends they have on Instagram, or what brand shoe they're wearing?
Yeah. No, I think about that, and what comes up for me in that question, because I think it's a good one. If you're going to do it by success, I'd say I'll know that that I've done a successful job raising my children if they have two skill sets, and they're big, and then there's sub ones underneath each one. But the two main ones are, one, that they're the skill to be profoundly fulfilled, because that includes emotional regulations. That means being wealthy, not rich, and wealthy could be in many things, but understanding happiness, but fulfillment. And the other one is the ability to be resilient. To be able to adjust, to be able to get off the ground, to learn from the mistakes, to learn from the failures, to learn from the challenges, to keep going in the effort of, and that alone can give you a sense of fulfillment. But I think those are the two things that come up for me, because I think about that a lot. I mean, I think about two big questions. How to raise my children for a future I have no idea what it's going to be like, because I don't think other parents, I mean, maybe old parents have felt this way, but at the rate that AI is learning and the technology is changing and social media, and I don't think parents have dealt with this rate of change before. And therefore the world is going to be vastly different than, I mean, for us 20 years ago versus now, and that's as adults, it has vastly changed.
So, yeah.
Right? And so you can only imagine, it's only getting faster. So we're preparing them for a world that is going to be absolutely something that we can imagine, but we really don't know what it's going to be like. So how do you prepare your kids for that?
When you say fulfillment, I think of, what makes them smile, right? And so part of smiling, part of entertainment is storytelling. And when I think about, I didn't really watch much TV at all when I was growing up, but there's this sort of standard, Tom and Jerry, I mean, I'm quite old, but whatever we were watching, the sort of Saturday morning cartoon type programming, and even seeing the entertainment change so rapidly, and how it's like quick hits, and how that's even going to change. And especially as AI is building out entertainment and how to engage with people, it's going to be about like spikes and peaks and valleys, and so it's really scary to think about that development in an unconscious way, because that's going to affect how we consume and how we engage, and how our nervous systems, even our nervous systems. Unfortunately, not unfortunately, but my wife she only lets me watch rom-coms. My Netflix is getting real limited these days, so I'll watch Ozark or whatever when she's not around. But it's interesting because since she came into my life, however many years ago, I've seen such a difference in my mind when I do watch something that is a horror or because I'm not my system isn't used to that, and it really affects me now.
Okay, give me an example. Give me an example, just so I can really.
Okay, well, I didn't watch it, but I was reading it. I don't even know. I probably hit it. Oh, there it is. The Long Island Compromise. Do you know that book?
No.
So, okay, as an art director,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I love this cover, right?
Yeah, sure.
And my friend Rachel Fleet, you know Rachel,
Yeah.
she had recommended this. I'm from Long Island, so but anyway, I just started to read this on the plane the other day, and it's like it's about a guy who is kidnapped by a terrorist organization. I barely got into it, and it's about family trauma, and it just felt the content was darker than my system wanted. So and yeah, I really can see how this kind of information affects my nervous system. So on the plane home, I read, I'm almost done with it. I'm reading All Fours, which I'm sure you've heard of. It's like, a woman in her mid 40s is sort of like maybe leaving her family, but it's light and kind of funny and sort of sad, but also real. But it's definitely not about like kidnapping and dark family trauma.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, it is, but in a different way. But it's just, my point is that our bodies are affected by things and we don't even realize. So it's just, it's scary to think about all of what we were talking about and just who's developing and what is developing and what's being put into the world.
When I became a father, so I have two now, but when I became a father, I just was shocked at how the world operated. I said, holy fuck, how do adults who are dealing with fucking war and pain and grief, how do they operate when their hearts are running around and these little children running around? This, your heart is like taken out and they're there. And then you just think about all the unfortunate, horrible tragedies that are happening globally. You're like, how is the world operating? How is it operating? And that also manifested in my own life in the sense that I couldn't watch any movie that was about a kid dying. I mean, I can have a hard enough time watching what's happening on the news in the scope of war, which is important to pay attention to so that we hopefully can make changes in our political systems. But I didn't want to watch a movie that was about anything that was about a family or a son or a child or a daughter and death and kill. I just couldn't watch that anymore. I just couldn't let that into my field, because as soon as I just think about, that happening to, your child or something, it's just so vulnerable. And I just don't understand, just have a newfound understanding as a parent of the precariousness and vulnerability of parents around the world. And it just befuddles me how do people operate in war zones? How do they handle that kind of grief?
I think about it all the time.
You feel it, right?
Yeah. Well, I feel all the time, and I think about it all the time, how lucky we are that my 5-year-old can just go to a playground and be safe.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's really, what's happening in the world is extremely, there are no words, actually, and part of the challenge is, like, now we have access to all the stories and all the suffering and all the pain at any moment across the entire world. So it's at our fingertips. So is it worse than ever? Probably not. I mean, I'm sure it could, but the access is what's.
Yeah, it's more direct.
And it's more direct, and then there's, like, what can you actually do? And I struggle with, and I try to tell myself that, I've been working on family trauma, right? So, like, that is
in
like
your film relative. Yeah.
Right. And I can only do so much. There's so much suffering and so much pain. So can you make an impact? And I don't think you can make an impact everywhere. So, and even though the film is finished technically, there's so much more impact in just getting it into the right communities in the right hands, and the people that are affected that I'm getting messages from all the time. So like I know that work is working, and I can't, and I try to remind myself that that's the work that I'm doing, but also there's all of this pain and suffering, and it's like how am I not helping that person or that country or that group? So it's really hard to stay clear.
What do you mean by stay clear? What do you mean by stay clear?
We are here not as individuals, but as a community, and we should be. I believe that we're here to help, to do what we can to help our communities and community and whatever whatever that means. I personally can't get overwhelmed, and I can't do everything. So I believe that it is valuable to choose what you are able to affect and change and impact, and not let all of the other pain and suffering get you down, because it really is challenging to be alive and see the suffering and pain and not be able to do anything about it. So when I say clear, I think it's important. Not only is the pain and suffering horrific, but I think it's also very important to stay clear in the mind and forgive yourself that you can't actually fix all of that. Do you know what I mean? I mean, we can all do a lot, and ideally we can choose what we do and the impact that we make. But there is a certain amount of forgiveness to yourself that I think some people, grace, actually, that's a perfect word, in the acknowledgement that it is.
It's just, I can't think of the poem right now. I think it's by Rudyard Kipling, where he says, like, if you can, like, something along, like, may you know what you can change, accept the things you can't, and have the wisdom to know the difference. I know that you feel that stuff. I think, like, if you look at your life, you're in your fourth decade, fifth decade. What is the story of you? What's your story? What do you think is the story of your life?
A big question.
What would you say? Yeah, I mean, the question I'm really going for, that I'm playing with in this podcast so far, is like, what do you think life designed you for? And what have you seen or experienced that makes you think that?
I was designed to heal work through, process, and overcome. The word heal is, I don't know that we're ever healed. So like work, process, reflect on some of the difficulties in life and learn how to move in the world, move through them, right? And like, I think that process for me was a challenge. This has been a big challenge, and we've talked a lot about that. But I think that allowed me to open up the space for other people. So I think my story was about working through my own sort of story, working through my own challenges and past and history, and finding that everybody has their own way to work through things, and realizing that it's through connection to myself, to nature, to community, like through connection, we can move through things. And then that ability to bring that knowledge to other people unsaid, like not that I need to be communicating that to other people, but just hold space for other people to sort of see literally on film that process, but also be able to sort of inspire and be a catalyst for their own kind of growth and looking at their own stories. I think that's what my purpose has been, and that's sort of what I've been designed to do thus far.
Is that also where you get your most joy from, or not? Like, do you get your joy? Because that's kind of hard, and And I wonder, like, do you get your greatest sense of fulfillment from that, or is that just what you're designed for and you get value from it, but actually you get fulfillment and maybe joy from other places?
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily bring me joy.
But you feel like life has designed you for that, and you keep doing it because why?
It gives me purpose. That is because I think it's find your gift and give it away. I do think that that's what I'm able to offer this world. Joy is an interesting word because I could probably bring it into my life a little bit more, but there is, and again, joy is a joyful word. So I don't know if I could say it's joy, but there is, satisfaction, and, that's even not the right word, but
Fulfillment
is more correct. Fulfillment in,
like embodying your purpose and embodying your contribution.
yeah, but I would like to get to joy a little bit more, actually. I think I've learned two things from this conversation. One was your second point on raising children, which is resilience. I could do that better. I'd like to offer that more to my children. And joy. I think that's an important part of life.
Yeah. I do this because I think about, sometimes I see archetypes, especially when I've done ayahuasca, for instance. I see like the archetypes, like, ooh, that's Jabba the Hutt, and Darth Vader, or that's a Jedi, or, I don't know why I'm referring to Star Wars now, but it's not just that. It's like there's Indiana Jones and like archetypes, there's a big lizard just eats dead flesh. I see that. And I don't know if people believe in past lives or not, but whether it's a past life, but we've talked about this. But this conversation for me just keeps reaffirming that vision I have of you, which, past life or an archetype. But I had that vision where, we were in a past life, is in that altered state. I saw like that we were part of a Native American tribe, and it was getting wiped out. And I basically committed suicide by running a horse off a cliff over in Spider Rock, because I had that incredible experience in Spider Rock in was it northern New Mexico, southern Arizona. I had that incredible experience. Like, it was so vivid. And I was on a job filming, and I was like overcome with this experience. And part of that connects to this idea, like, as it was getting overrun and they see the tribe was getting killed and liquidated, you were a grandmother in that tribe. And you were old, and there was not anything you physically could do other than sit in the main tent teepee, in the center teepee, and just hold the space of the pain of everyone that was happening around. When I say that story, what comes up for you? Like, bullshit, cool story, or like what? That's Topaz's trip. I mean, I'm not even asking if it's true or not. I'm saying that's a strong thing for me, of this image, this archetype I have for you. And then this life, it's like that energy is carried through. And I don't know if that's true or not, but just when I share that, what comes up for you?
Yeah, you shared that with me a long time ago, and it didn't not resonate, but I was like, okay, it did. Well, it probably didn't resonate. Actually, I didn't really see what you meant. And I will say that recently I've thought about that and talked about that with my wife so many times, because that is my biggest struggle actually right now. Like, that exact image, energy, experience that you're speaking of is what I am holding and sitting with and trying to process and find joy in that, because it's very, very hard. And what I'm trying to do now, of course, having two young girls, is like, how do I live this life and not take that on in a way that hurts my physical body and my health? And, I forgot the part of that story where you said that you were on the horse and committed suicide.
Just ran off a cliff. Yeah.
I forgot that until right now. And what's interesting is in the past 2 weeks, I've been thinking about this story a lot because of holding the space for people dying. And my best friend from college, it's been actually 4 weeks ago now, committed suicide. And so holding space, and also in the past year and a half, I've now had, this is my fourth actual best friend, like, and I don't have many close friends. Yeah. My fourth death that close to me, that intimately close to me. And how do I hold that truth, but also not let it take me down? And actually part of where I've come is there is as hard as death is, there is a truth that I'm finding in all of these sort of death moments, experiences with these good friends of mine, that is around the fact that they are free and they are happy and their energy is in the universe.
They being the ones who passed.
Yes, and that they're free. We're here in this. Yeah. Like, I think they win almost, you know? It's right. Like they win. We're sort of still in this human form suffering. Yeah. So that brings me a lot of peace.
Thanks for bringing that up. I wasn't sure if we would talk about that, but, you know, you've had a very intense last year, and you've had a close friend pass away, and you were with him in hospice, his family, and he said it was beautiful. You had your other close friend and mentor who basically died suddenly, that you were asked by the family to give eulogy, which is a huge privilege and honor. You know, You had the other episode where you saw an elderly woman get hit by a truck right in front of you and your family, and you ran out of the car, and thank God Maggie was there so she could take the kids and shield them from that, but you went right into that space, and you held that woman as she was dying, and her last breath, you were holding her. You were with her, and now you have a friend, a very close friend, who committed suicide 4 weeks ago. That's all in the span of a year. And I've told you this before, too, that there aren't a lot of people who go into that space and help the space of transition. You know, there's people who run away from it because it reminds them, I don't know why, but I assume maybe one reason is it reminds you of your own mortality. Another reason is that it's incredibly, I assume, like, vulnerable to step into the vulnerability of that epic moment, and it's just scary to hold that emotion. I don't know if I'm built like you are. I know another friend of mine I've told you about who's also, I call these people angels, that when someone is dying, they run to them. They like go to them and they hold them and help them in that transition, because it's a scary space to be in. And that kind of, for me, also aligns with this grandmother figure who, as death is around, she's still present. She holds a space for everyone. And, you know, I think it's a unique type of personality. It's a unique type of soul that like holds that. And I think it's interesting that joy is not like joy is the end all be all, but it's far away from that space holding. But there is a sense of, but on the other hand, you're like saying, but they win, they're going, and I'm helping them go, and they're transitioning. In that sense, you're happy for them, right? Or there's a sense of happiness. It might be different than joy, but I don't. Why do you think that you are in that position, that you go into the space of that transition and you help people transition?
I do believe that we are born into this world to work through certain things. So maybe there's a teaching in it for me. I'm not sure. I mean, there must be. But I wonder if some of this is about some of the ability to do that. I wonder if that is, whether it's because I'm able to see and connect to the bigger sort of meaning and universal intelligence of it all. So the ability to do that allows me to kind of bridge both worlds a little bit. And maybe I'm able to bridge both worlds and understand the sort of bigger picture intelligence because of the experiences. I'm not sure. But I do think that I definitely leave human form during these moments. And some are sudden, to your point, some are sudden, and I have to process it myself and with other people around her. And some have been, like hospice was a 2-year transition of death. But, and that's the second good friend I had that I processed.
Right.
2 years of sort of cancer and dying. And every human is so different in how they pass, which is also their own story. It's interesting. Like that must be.
What do you mean? Tell me more.
Well, I see the edge of their ability of learning what they are here to learn in human form in this lifetime. And
say it again. Say that again.
The moment of death is a reflection of the edge of their ability to learn what they are able to learn in this lifetime. And and it's, again, it's that sitting, like the image that you have of sitting. None of us can actually do anything for anyone else. We just have to sit and witness. But it's beautiful to witness those that are able to transition and learn and break through some of the challenges that they've had in life. And then it's also holding space for those who have challenges for many, many years and can't move through it and die from it, and it takes them down. But all of the deaths, like some of those, they're just in different. The transition moment of death is interesting, that it's reflective of their ability of where they are and their ability to kind of heal or move through some of what they came into, the challenges they came into this world with.
Do you want to give one example with the story of one who's on our friend who was in hospice? Because you told me that was a very incredible, elevated, or do you not? Do you want to keep that?
So for him, and this is, he was married, and it's a known, it's not a hidden story, but it's a known story that between him and his wife and his loved ones. But he struggled with allowing love in, I guess, is like a simple way to put it, and being intimate himself in a way that really allowed him to be one with another individual that he loved. So, and he struggled with that in his marriage. And I think the sickness and cancer, held him to the fire and in a way that he could have gone both ways. He could have stayed open. He could have stayed close to her in the ways that he wasn't able to fully open. But what I think he did beautifully was, and they had a 3-year-old at the time when he was dying, he was able to fully embrace the reality of death and leaving his son to just kind of grow up without him. But also he let himself be loved, which he never was able to do. It's not even just him loving someone else, but letting himself be loved.
Yeah.
And so he transformed his relationship with his father in the last few weeks, and transformed his relationship with his wife, but with love, with the ability to love and be loved. And he actually he was down to under 100 pounds, and in hospice, he was walking around with this reality of, I won. And he was embodying that reality in the most beautiful way. I mean, he literally held his hands up and he was like, I won at life. I won. And he was surrounded by his best friends.
He won at life because what?
Because he was loved. Because he
accepted it in. He took it in.
He was like, I lived a beautiful, fulfilled life. So he was able, despite having to leave a 3-year-old and having to leave all of these, relationships.
Oh my gosh.
And there's a picture of him holding up his cane at the time, because it was hard for him to walk, in this beautiful sun.
Yeah.
And he died with the most grace. I've never met anybody enlightened, and he became a truly enlightened being. And two of my other friends who one died suddenly and just this one with the suicide, I don't think they were, I believe that, well, they did. They both died from the two struggles. One was struggling with addiction and could never get a hold of it. And the other one died because he never healed his relationship with his mom, I think, and which led him to really challenging relationships with women, choosing the wrong women, and then putting himself in situations where he wasn't treated well. And he died from a rare disease called Guillain-Barré syndrome. I don't know how to pronounce it. But it's basically brought on by stress and in the depths of his partner him in the hospital, his partner was actually asking him to move out and kicking him out of their apartment. So it's just, he never really addressed the core issues that got into some of these relationships. And that's actually what ended up killing him. The stress of that attacked his immune system. Yeah. And then he had a couple strokes and a heart attack.
As you know, I'm right now in my sphere of constellation. I have some very close friends that I've known for 25 years, who are either facing ALS or cancer. There's 4 of them. They're all our age. And I'm really questioning myself, how am I showing up for them? How am I showing up for them? And there is something about sending energy and thoughts and lighting a candle. But part of me is also, maybe because I'm a Taurus, I'm not really into this astrology or something, but maybe I'm using that as an excuse of a term of just like, maybe it's just also about fucking just showing up in the physical reality and not just putting words. Like, I know I'm being tough on myself, but that's where I'm at now, is wondering about that. And you do show up.
But yes. And I think that's more for you. I mean, of course,
right.
That's for them, sure. But
But that's for me. Maybe that's about my own sense of my self-identity of who am I in the face of these things.
Right.
And they or may not care whether I show up or not. But I do.
Why?
Maybe I do because I'm scared about who's going to show up for me. Maybe I'm scared because I like to think of myself as that kind of character. I don't know. But that's the questions I'm asking myself. And I am wondering how I show up, And I think we all know that I'm an intense guy, an intense person. So I applied maybe a little bit too much intensity to these questions, but for some reason, I take them seriously.
But why is this more serious than other moments in their life?
Because, you don't want to just show up when they're in the hospital. You want to show up in the good moments too, which also applies to the friends who are not facing cancer or ALS, like face you and I right now. Showing up for each other now and being present and really being present in the moment and making a memory, right? And exchange so that we try to make as many of those as possible.
Yeah. You're hard on yourself sometimes, and I think you can forgive yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Which is interesting because this weekend I had an illumination that's like, what was it last weekend? But I was washing the car with my son and I realized that in my effort to teach him resilience, I'm missing out on the chance to teach him joy.
Yeah, that's nice.
Right? I'm like, you got to be Cosmos, you got to this, or you have to handle this, or you have to, and I'm like, wait, so then that's why I'm like, yeah, resilience is important, fulfillment is important, but am I teaching him how to have joy? Maybe that's the fucking most important thing, because I don't think I'm teaching him that. So it's interesting. It's like that actually, when I thought that, it fucking broke my fucking heart. Jesus, fucking broke my fucking heart. It's like, am I teaching him joy? Maybe I wasn't taught joy, right? So how do I learn it? Maybe you weren't taught joy. How do you learn it? How do you bask in it?
Well, I think both of us, and probably many people, carry a lot of responsibility.
Sense of responsibility.
Yeah, and that's even to your question of how do I show up for these people in their dying days. But it's like, I think we take on more responsibility than we actually need to, because
You mean like emotional responsibility, you mean?
yeah, for sure. For other people,
Right.
even our own children, which is like, they're here on their path, learning their thing.
Yeah.
We can help and guide and be as supportive as we can, but to be up at night deeply questioning what you can do to show up for other people, maybe that is like beyond the level of responsibility that is, I don't know, helpful for your energy. I don't know.
Yeah, good question. Part of me feels like that's what it's about. It's like, fucking, that's what it's about. It's like, that's what it's about. Like, you showed up on people's time, but you also showed up by making the film relative, both in the people who watch it and both in your family members, of you asking questions when they didn't want to ask questions.
It is what it's about, but it's also the work you are doing in this world is so deeply important and incredible. And to the point that I was making earlier, you can't do everything for everyone. Yeah. You're doing so much for so many people by having intimate, meaningful conversations.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, don't say to cut me off either. Like, take that in, because it's true. Because now all of a sudden
that reminds me of the time
stepping on my line.
Oh, thank you for saying that. It's hard for me to take that in. Makes me think of the time. Do you remember when we were filming Relative, and one of the first times we were filming with your grandma, the incredible Nana, right? Incredible woman. And do you remember we had a conversation, and then we had a barbecue, and we went to the grill in the back? Do you remember that?
Yeah, but I don't remember.
You don't remember? So it was one of the first times we were filming a scene, and then so we went over to grandma with your mom and shot a few scenes and conversations, and originally we're like, and then we had a barbecue, and you were making a barbecue, put shrimp on the Barbie.
Oh yeah.
And I was filming you.
Yeah.
And I don't remember what I asked or what happened, but you just did what I just did to you, which was you shut me out.
Oh, really?
And I said, and I'm like, did you just shut me out? And you're like, yeah.
I couldn't go there. Yeah.
Yeah, you're like, okay. So,
well, that's the beauty of relationships. Can I ask you why you're doing this and what you're hoping come from these conversations?
I don't know. No, I don't have a hope about. I don't know where it ends. I just have this yearning. There's two lenses that I'm looking through it. It's I have more time on my hands, so I want to apply my time to something of service. Since I'm physically far away from everything, I figure talking to people this way is one use. I've always loved talking to people and like feeling their experiences. So I get a lot of energy from it. I love it. There's an intelligence to life somehow, and there's all these synchronicities and coincidences and things that happen, and then our alchemy with it in terms of how we relate and change and adjust and react to those things that life presents. And that alchemy between what life throws our way and how we react and respond to it and change to it, I think there's a beautiful lesson in it. It's like an incredible technology. And kind of trying to decipher what is just the lesson that life is trying to teach through your own experience. And so by learning those lessons, we can then give it away. Because I do believe that, like, on some level, I think, at least from, I did those retreats called Grace, those I did that 3 times. And like, I saw directly firsthand there how the story of your life can be medicine for me and others. And the story of my life can be medicine for others. Like that, I know for sure. I've seen that. And by story of life means like when you share about your life experience, what your soul has gone through, what you have gone through, the narrative of your life, and the lessons you've learned and how you've reacted to things can be medicine for other people. That's what I'm trying to do here.
That's beautiful. And I think this is the kind of work that is so important, especially as we move into a world generated by AI more and more. So thank you for facilitating this.
Oh, T-Bone, thank you for being on it. Thanks for being in. I appreciate it so much. Guts is a Skin Deep media production. The show is produced by Sundus Hassan Noli, video by Dane Montezan, with editorial support from Ants Cabral and executive produced by me, Topaz Adizes. Special thanks to all the guests who showed guts, without whom there will be no getting under the skin. Interested in joining our community and following this journey? Visit guts.podcast on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok.com for in-depth conversation card games to create the space for connection, intimacy, and deeper conversation. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Until next time, keep having the guts to get under the skin.